Here it is.
Hello, and welcome to our show, Crooked Doctors, at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine of Yeshiva University, where every week we out them for their illegal, criminal, and unethical, immoral behavior so that we can save other people from going to the Crooked Doctors at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. How much do you think they love me?
Hello.
This is Josh Felinsky,
Hi.
who's filling in for William Doherty until William Doherty comes back. And Jason Berg should be calling in soon. Next week, what we're going to do is we're going to Skype Jason in so we can get better audio. So I'm going to set up a Skype account for Jason so that he comes in a little clearer. And also on Skype, you can see him, so we won't just have the still photograph. Mm-hmm. We are live. We are broadcasting from Manhattan. We broadcast throughout Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Manhattan. If you'd like to give us a call, we're at 212-245-7273. And I'm going to ask the engineers very kindly if they're going to extend the phone out here so that while I get involved in the show, I apologize to a few people that I didn't see because unfortunately when they set up the new studio, we upgraded. They put this such that it's situated behind me. So sometimes when I get into talking to you or content of the show, here we go. Here's Jason calling in. Hello. I'm putting you through now. Say hello to the audience.
Hello, audience. It's another great day in New York City and the world.
Okay, good. I'm going to turn you up just a little bit.
Yeah, you better turn him up.
No, we can hear it. Say hello again, Jason.
Hello, folks. It's Jason Berg from New Jersey.
Oh,
Good
you
to
sound
be here.
You sound very good. Great.
Thank
I
you.
told the audience that next week what I'm going to try to do is have you Skype in, so that way we just don't have the still photograph. We can actually see you in real time, talking and speaking and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that'd be great. Technology is great when it works.
Yeah, so that'll be good. So we're experimenting with things in real time. We're field testing things in real time.
Great. That's fantastic.
You sound really good. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from my home and on my wireless phone here in Jersey City.
Good. You sound pretty good. Okay, so we'll work on Skyping you in next week. And what we want to do first is we had a couple questions, so I'm going to answer the couple questions. The first thing is you had Josh Felinsky, who's a co-producer, and there are some people who wanted to call because you've been talking about our show. 212-245-7273. I'm going to have the engineer try to put the phone here, so I apologize. As I started editing the last few shows, by the way, I put all the archive shows up on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you type in one word in the YouTube search bar, Crooked Doctors, you'll come to all the archived shows. And I noticed that I, accidentally missed a few callers, so I apologize. That's because the phone is situated behind me, so I'm going to ask the engineers in the upcoming weeks if they'll put the phone here so I won't miss it. So I apologize to the people who called in, and I didn't pick up the phone because I was so wrapped up.
By the way, Lydia, there's one crooked doctor which you unfortunately didn't get, Dr. Nikita Levy, who committed suicide, and Johns Hopkins University was sued for $190 million, and about 2,000 women collected restitution. And he was a dysfunctional, crooked gynecologist.
I'd read about that in the paper. Yeah.
I think there's even more people that it was done. But again, that's really nothing compared to the $23 billion that woman won for tobacco.
That's also true. But unfortunately, we're talking about at Johns Hopkins, one crooked doctor. The problem with Albert Einstein College of Medicine is that this is institutional wide. So one of the reasons why I'm pivotal, or my cases forms a rock on which other students are building their cases, is, as you know, there's 34 former students from the high school of Yeshiva University that have been subjected to physical and sexual abuse going back decades. Now, I'm sure that Yeshiva would like to claim that these are one-time honest mistakes. They're not, as I demonstrate, and as I demonstrated with my Yeshiva victims group, and it's unfortunate that some of those students, ruin their cases, but what we show is that the crooked doctors, or the crime and corruption, is university-wide. So I want to go back into answering some questions that I got, but before we do that, we wanted to follow up with Helen Rosenthal. So I'm going to show her flyer, and let me just change the camera view here. Hold on. Okay, so what we're going to do is, we've been helping Helen Rosenthal, who's Manhattan City Councilwoman, and we had this event. It was very informative, and we want to let everybody know that in October, these free workshops will be resuming. So not to worry, if you missed this last Wednesday, there's still going to be free housing clinic workshops resuming again in October. Is that correct, Josh?
Right. But also they will discuss your individual problems and other problems.
Okay. So we had the great good fortune of saying hello to Helen Rosenthal. And as you brought to my attention,
and of course, every Wednesday you can make an appointment with Ann Cunningham at Hamilton House, 73rd Street, off Broadway.
And what Jason,
West 73rd Street.
and what Ann Cunningham is the housing specialist for Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. She's very knowledgeable. And we have our Epic Times here, and where our report, you brought these in. Why don't you tell me why you brought this in? Go ahead, tell me why you brought this in.
Oh, why I brought it in?
Yeah.
Well, because there's an article about harassment of tenants by our friend Catherine Wang.
That's not what you said when you walked in. You said, Catherine Wang has struck again.
Yeah, Catherine Wang has struck again.
Okay, so let's go to, wait. I'm showing this on camera too. So this is the Epic Times, and it came out, and what's important is, and we'll do more of this, is that eviction attempts are rampant. And this is Catherine Wang, the very nice journalist from the Epic Times that wrote about me and Paula Gloria, who's also a reporter here. I'm sorry, a producer here. So Catherine Wang is writing this article that came out today. And what's important is, and this is why these housing workshops are important, if you live in a rent-stabilized apartment, you basically have a target on your back. This is really serious. And you'll be subject to false allegations. This is a very informative article. You're going to, and here's a, let me just show this real quick. If you're out there, you can pick up a copy of the Epic Times. This is Helen Rosenthal, our Manhattan City Council woman, and if you're under pressure from your landlord, you need to get some help real fast, because there's going to be all kinds of false accusations. She's trying to get legislation passed that would make it criminal for your landlord to harass you. Is that correct, Josh?
Right, correct.
Yeah. So we're trying to get, she's trying to get new laws passed that would criminalize this kind of behavior.
Well, it's not even the harassment. It's the degrading of the person's character and falsifying of records. Actually, that's a crime in itself, putting in false records against an individual.
Thank you. Yeah, that's true. And apparently, the landlord's harassment is that's true. It's the character assassination that's terrible. The false accusations, the character assassination, and apparently this is happening all over the city, according to this tenant leader. So, if you're out there, we encourage you to read about this. Eviction attempts are rampant on Manhattan's Gold Coast. Upper West Side tenants active in response to landlord aggression. This is really outrageous.
Yes.
It's really outrageous. So
it's prevalent and
Is there
repetitious.
an organization in Manhattan or in the 5 boroughs that the people can join so so it's more unity against these slime balls they call landlords?
Your tenants association, you got to organize your building, and you have to join your tenants association. This article talks about a tenant leader who's doing everything she possibly can, and you know, she acknowledges that sometimes tenants are wrong. Those are the people we don't help, but you got to join your tenants association, and otherwise you're going to be subjected to, like, you know, false accusations, harassment. In my case, which is a nice segue, so let me get into some of the questions in my case. You know, you're subjected to the crime. In my case, I was subjected to the crime of false imprisonment. Jason, I'm showing right now, and I'm going to a treatise on false arrest and false imprisonment.
What is a treatise?
It's basically, you know, a study, a book, information that's put out on false arrest and false imprisonment. Why is this important? Because I went to a law enforcement agency in Jersey, and I said, you know, I was subjected to a crime in Jersey City Medical Center, and that was the crime of false imprisonment. Now, according to this treatise, I do not have to, hang on for just one second, I do not have to prove anything. Jersey City Medical Center has to prove that they had a right to hold me. So they falsely imprisoned me in their hospital for 4 days, created a bunch of false records, did a big character assassination on me, but I don't have to prove anything. The crime of false imprisonment is a crime and a tort. So I went to a law enforcement agency today to follow up. Now, they talked to Jersey City Medical Center. It's not up to me to prove anything. Jersey City Medical Center has to prove that they had a right to hold me. That means they have to come up with a signed court order, and they can't. Because
weren't you also assaulted by those security guards for no apparent reason? So in addition to proving that your treatise case, you also have assault and battery and other injuries.
Correct. Thank you. So yeah, so I was physically assaulted at Jersey City Med. This is how bad standing up to your landlord, who's actually working in conjunction with my medical school, can be.
So standing up to anyone who thinks that they are above the law is a real issue here.
Exactly, and that's why I'm providing this treatise to National Liberty Alliance. And I spoke to some of the national leadership. I'm going to give this to them, give them some time to look it over, and then ask them to post it on their website. Because the single best thing we can do is share this. And this is very timely, because in New York, in Staten Island, I'm sure you read, there was a man who died, who was killed by the police being put in a chokehold. Now, here's what they didn't say, and I discussed this with one of the organizers at National Liberty Alliance. Here's what all these smart people in New York didn't say. Nobody saw the man who was killed in Staten Island sell a loose cigarette, a Lucy.
And it was they were, that was a habeas corpus. Where was it?
Nobody saw him commit a crime. The police, if the police see you commit a crime, or they see you disturbing the peace, they can put you under arrest. That was not true for the gentleman who was choked to death in a chokehold in Staten Island. So all he had to do, when, you know, I heard this on the news, they're like, well, you know, the police union president came on and said, well, what do you want us to do? You know, we were told to go arrest this guy. Wait, well, just 1 second. What do you mean you had to go arrest this guy? Where's your arrest warrant? Where is it signed by a judge? And where are the signed oaths on which it is based? Okay, so
also that gentleman said, "Don't touch me." They trespassed on him. So even if they touched him, they trespassed, and trespassing is even a higher crime against those police officers.
Well, all he really had to do All he really had to do was say, excuse me, because they say this consistently. They say, we didn't see, there was no crime that they can point to. They didn't, the police officers didn't see him. Nowhere in any of the news reports that I watched did a police officer come forward and said, I watched the guy sell a loose cigarette. They didn't say that. They didn't
even have a witness.
Well,
so I mean, like if the police see it and there's no witness, again, they can't do anything unless they have an arrest warrant, or they see a high crime, like the guy shot someone right in the street. You have the right to do that.
And there's the allegation that they were bootlegged. How can you make the allegation that they were bootlegged? How do you know he didn't buy the cigarettes and he had some loose cigarettes on him?
Well,
he was sharing them.
Well, that's
how do they?
But
they alleged that they were bootlegged.
Well, but the whole point is the police come and the excuse that the police union president had on I think it was on New York One this past week was, listen, we're the police. They told us to go out. We had to arrest him. What could we have done? Really? Where's your arrest warrant? Unless you saw this man disturbing the peace in front of you.
Correct.
Or you saw him commit a crime,
correct,
none of which happened. You never saw any police officer come forward and say, I watched him sell a loose cigarette, okay? Nobody ever said that. They never said we saw him disturbing the peace. In fact, he was trying to break up a fight. So if he just stood there calmly and said, excuse me, you're putting me under arrest, show me your arrest warrant. Show me where it's signed by a judge, and show me where it's based on a sworn oath. They can't do that, so you have no right to touch me. And it's the same issue that I ask in my case when I ask my attorney, where is, and he's like double talking any way he possibly can, where is the arrest warrant? Okay, Detective Cologne came to my apartment, said, I'm going to put you under arrest. I'm like, great, where is the arrest warrant signed by the judge who I will hold accountable, and where are the sworn statements? So the single best information that we can give, because remember, we're not just outing these people. We want to change the system and give the audience information so that what happened to us won't happen to you. So this is a very good treatise on false arrest and false imprisonment. And the single best piece of information that I can give, and Josh and Jason can give in this show is, if the police have not seen you disturb the peace, and they have not seen you commit a crime, and they're coming to arrest you, you ask them, where is your arrest warrant? Now, they'll try this like they tried to gain access to my apartment, right? The dirty trick of they make phony 911 calls, and then the police say, well, you don't mind if we just walk in and look around? Yes, I do mind, officer. Do you have a warrant? No, then go away. Okay, so you have to be able to stand up to the police and assert yourself and say, no, you can't do that. So, Jason, what I'm going to do is give this treatise to the national leadership, have them a chance to look it over, and then ask if they'll put it up on the National Liberty Alliance website. And then I think we should do a flyering campaign, because I think the best thing we can do is combat aggression with knowledge. What do you think?
It's very good. And also send it on to me, and I'll post it on my Facebook page.
Terrific. So
more people are getting out there and do it. Remember, it only takes one person to change the world. One person says no, and that changes the entire nomenclature of the reality that we are living in. All these courts are all equity courts, and they're all illegal. Any person that does not have a trial of $20 or more by the Seventh Amendment is a violation of his constitutional right.
Yeah. What Jason is talking about, hold on, I just want to bring up my, what Jason's talking about is, okay, here we go. What Jason's talking about is National Liberty Alliance is challenging the jurisdiction of the courts that we get dragged into. And the courts that we get dragged into will try to impose statutes and codes in a maritime admiralty court. And if you challenge that and say, no, I'm going to challenge jurisdiction and I'm going to turn this into a common law court, well, they don't know what to do because they want to get rid of the common law. Because in the common law, there's no statute of limitations.
Well,
There's no statutes and codes. I don't have to listen to you the bar lawyers with all their razzle-dazzle misconstrue. There's an injured person. There's a wrongdoer, and the injured person is asking for restitution. So one way that we can help change the world is by putting up this treatise on false arrest and false imprisonment.
Yes, I listened to you
hit it on a
very
little bit
carefully.
more.
Wait.
The whole
Let's hear what
point-
Jason. Go ahead.
No, as I listened to both of you very carefully, we have to be aware of the fact that the system inculcates us with misinformation, and they are always trying to intimidate us. And that is why we have so many misconceptions of what our rights actually are.
Yeah.
And again, the only
And the
thing you
Freedom
really
First
need
Party
is look at your
tries
right
to protect
as
us
still a
from it.
right, and that's where everything lies. What is the law of the land? Ask that to a police officer, he may not know. Even to a judge, he may know. And where is that? And the law of the land is a common law. And the whole point of their establishment authority comes from our consent. If we do not give them the consent, they cannot abuse us. But they will, as Josh said, they will go there and try to intimidate us into submission. And the real thing is that we do not have to be placated to their whims of stupidity.
Well, you know what else is very interesting? Because we have a study group where we educate ourselves. And one of the things that the national leadership said yesterday, said, this really should be taught in the schools. If we taught young people an hour a day for like a year, they could protect themselves for a lifetime. But you don't have to depend on our public, our schools, because they're failing in so many ways. I mean, if you have a young person and you just spent a summer or 2 summers just studying common law that the national leadership is putting up on National Liberty Alliance, you would be able to protect yourself for life against these miscarriages of justice. So anytime, and this is true for Jersey City Medical Center. Now, the law enforcement people that I'm dealing with are going to start freaking out because, yes, I am holding you personally accountable. But Jersey City Medical Center, I went to law enforcement, to a federal law enforcement agency in Jersey, and the reason why citizens in Jersey City live in fear, like Jason is trying to change the system, the reason why Jersey City Medical Center can get away with the crime of false imprisonment is because the federal law enforcement agencies are themselves ignorant, and they're being lied to by the U.S. Attorney's Office. So the U.S. Attorney's Office in Newark, which is run by Paul Fishman, and that office hates my guts because I caught them lying. They want to know what else so we've got the U.S. Attorney's Office. These are the people who are charged by law to protect us, lied about me. I caught them lying. The only thing organized crime wants to know is, Lydia, you got more dirt? Because, when you've got organized crime saying you have no business coming after us, you're just as bad as we are. And when you've got a federal law enforcement agency that doesn't know and is being lied to by the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the only thing the law enforcement has to ask Jersey City Medical Center is, you have to prove that you had a right to hold her, okay? You don't have a signed court order by a judge. You don't have the right to hold her based on history at the hospital. That's garbage. The history at the hospital is fraud. You don't have the right to hold her because she's uncooperative, okay? You have to come up with a signed court order. So this is the question that the federal, and I will name names, this is the question that the federal law enforcement agency, the investigative arm that's being lied to by the U.S. Attorney's Office, I don't have to prove anything. Jersey City Medical Center has to show, because they kept me there, they committed the crime of false imprisonment, they interfered with my liberty, they did a lot of other terrible things they shouldn't have done, but prove to the law enforcement agency, Jersey City Medical Center, that you had a signed court order by a judge that was based on sworn oaths. You can't. Okay, so I don't have to prove anything. Jersey City Medical Center has to produce it, and they haven't.
And they don't have the proof. What is the end result of their crime?
Well, they need to be prosecuted for, see, so the big problem here is how to protect Vladimir Jelnov, a crooked doctor, a dishonest doctor at Jersey City Medical Center. Because without a signed court order, Vladimir Jelnov and Michael Stewart and Stacy Dix Kubiowski are going to jail. So they're going to take the fall for Nino Falcone, Judge Nino Falcone, and Judge Rodriguez. So it's not my problem. So in order to make sure that that Vladimir Jelnov doesn't pay the price, the U.S. Attorney's Office is lying to a federal law enforcement agency. I don't have to prove anything. I was subjected to the crime of false imprisonment.
That's right.
And show me the signed court order. You don't take away my liberty for 4 seconds, much less 4 days.
But also, weren't you also false imprisoned by the New York judge in your tenant case?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Would that issue of you being put into Rikers Island for 11 months, would that also be that part of that treatise also?
Yeah, that is the crime of false imprisonment. And now what the Manhattan District Attorney's Office has to show is that I had a legitimate purpose in calling my school. So they lied. Yeah, that is the crime of false imprisonment. But here's the other big problem that they're having is that you can't convict Lydia Radin when the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, acting in, here comes the words, are you ready for them? Yeah. Organized criminal conspiracy,
that would be a RICO.
Acting in an organized criminal conspiracy with the Manhattan District and the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, there was a valid subpoena for all my records. Nowhere in my records did they produce the letter of recommendation from Dr. Prodigal. Now, I had to go back to him and ask him for a replacement letter. I did this on this show. He gave me a replacement letter, and then he read it to me. I was tape recording the conversation, and he pulled it up on his computer, and he read it. So nowhere in any of those records do you see the letter of recommendation that he wrote. I can make a list of all the documents that the school did not produce. Now, if the school is not complying with a valid subpoena, that's the crime of obstruction of justice. So when the school obstructs justice and my attorneys are complicit in that crime, you don't convict me. So yeah, a District Attorney Vance has a big problem. But Vladimir Jelnov has another little problem that I want to bring out because this came up also. So yeah, Jason, it is the crime of false imprisonment for Rikers Island. Also, and that's why the national leadership is saying, my God, you got to make a whole long list. It's not about each episode of persecution. What it's about is that you're being denied equal protection of the law. So there's very little difference between me and if I was an African American or if I was a black person living in the Jim Crow South. So here I am, I'm like, you don't have to explain the racism to me because I get it. I'm being subjected. Even Mikey Weinstein said, you're living the racism every day. Yes. So this is just like me going, I'm living in the Jim Crow South. If I were to make a direct analogy, if I was a black woman living in the Jim Crow South and I go to the sheriff and I say, do you know the Ku Klux Klan has just burned down my home and killed my husband and stole all my property? And the sheriff's laughing in his sleeve because he's a member of the Klan. So when this happens, I'm supposed to go to a federal judge, right? This is why we have the 14th Amendment. I'm being denied equal protection of the law, and I have a federal right to sue, and I go into federal court, and I asked a federal judge, and I discussed this with a law enforcement agency. They're twisting in the wind, trying to find a way to get out of this. So I asked a federal judge, well, the school stipulated to, I don't have to prove anything. I went to a federal law enforcement agency here in Manhattan, and I don't have to prove anything because we've seen this before, right? The school stipulated to fraud, right? I'll highlight this. So I don't, when I went to when I went to the federal law enforcement agency and said, I asked a federal judge, we're going to watch a federal judge in real time conspire with the Albert Einstein College of Medicine to steal money from me. So let me just switch the camera view here. Hold on.
You know, the thing is that if they proved this point that they violated, why aren't they losing their autonomy of being a nonprofit organization? Is this the everyone getting a pass to go to heaven and everyone goes to hell?
You know, it's very interesting. How come the law doesn't apply to Lydia Reedon? You know, here's the problem: is I've been to so many people now that I virtually single-handedly eviscerate the Democratic Party. Not my problem that all these elected officials, you know, in law enforcement. That's the problem here. Now, we've been looking at this, right? I've sort of beaten a dead horse with this, but there was absolutely no support for her project, contrary to the College of Medicine's promises that they support student research 100%, right? I asked a federal judge, Judge Ross in the Eastern District of New York, to take judicial notice of this. That means she must accept this as evidence. She might wait. That's what judicial notice means. She knows this better than me. So this is a stipulation. She must accept it. And we've all seen, right, that we've all seen that I provided the case law, right? James versus SCS Technical Business Institute. Once the school has stipulated to fraud, all bets are off. You know, you lied to get me into the school. All bets are off. You know, you broke the contract. This is based on contract law. The contract, you promised me, you made promises to me that you didn't live up to. We've got James versus SCS Technical Business Institute. And now, so I go to a federal judge, Judge Ross in the Eastern District of New York, and I say, okay, the school stipulated to fraud. I'm not going to bother you with all the episodes of
they're obstructing justice and using fraud
yes,
to do so.
Yes.
And that's a crime.
And the federal Judge Ross is responsible for that crime. And we're watching.
That crime, but isn't there, when you're looking for also equal protection of the law, and someone was threatening your life, and the 10 other people wanted to have protection against the law, what's going on with that situation?
Again, you know, this was, again, we've got federal Judge Chen, Pamela Chen, in the Eastern District of New York. You know, I've got Maria Povanetti, the attack dog. She's turned loose. Jason, you gave me an affidavit in federal court that I submitted. I've got about 10, 11 people who have submitted affidavits. Again, I go to Judge Chen. I say, you know, this woman is threatening to, you can listen to the uncensored, if you go to my Crooked Doctors channel, you can listen to the uncensored death threats. I mean, this is ridiculous. I have to go through this in real time. Can you imagine if you were a person out there and didn't have a TV show to protect yourself with?
Right.
So, you know, I go to Detective Barry. She makes up some, like, you know, bogus excuse about 2 statutes being declared unconstitutional. That's ridiculous. Maria Povanetti can be charged under other statutes. I got police officers and Sergeant Chisholm in crime analysis saying the woman should be arrested. She should be charged. You should have an order of protection. Do you see any of that happening? No. So I go to the federal judge. I'm being denied equal protection of the law. Judge Pamela Chen in the Eastern District of New York gives me a runaround, says go back and deal with your local authorities. So I do. I go back and I do it all again, and I'm still being denied equal protection. So I go back to federal court, and I get Pamela Chen removed from my case. And now I'm naming her as a defendant, because when a federal judge conspires in these crimes, she doesn't get immunity. In fact, this nonsense of absolute immunity or judicial immunity is garbage. You're not a federal judge claiming immunity when you violate the Constitution. Violating the Constitution is not a judicial act.
Well, again, there has to be a reason for her not doing her job. Technically, she is now a judge in bad behavior, and technically speaking, she needs to be removed from her post and her bond removed, and then her personally sued.
Thank you.
And you know, the law is arbitrary. First of
Well,
all,
it
the
should
police,
be.
the
The
courts
law is the law.
work
The
for
law of
us.
the land is
When you
common
were
law.
threatened
It's
by
not- and
Maria.
all codes, statutes,
Wait.
and ordinances are for corporations and the federal and city and government and their employees. We are not responsible for these codes, but they give us the color under the color law that we must comply.
So, what did you want to say?
No, I wanted to say that we always say the police and the courts are working for us, supposedly. So when Lydia was threatened by Maria, she should have gotten immediate protection that she requested.
And that
Now,
person-
if she was TD Bank, that is not entitled to those police officers, or Barnes and Noble, the police would have acted immediately. But
Well,
the
again,
people
that
that
I
the
use
police
the word
are
arbitrary
supposed
and
to work
capricious,
for,
which is no
they
rhyme or
say
reason
no,
why they're doing this.
refuse.
But they think they are God, and they're demigods. And the thing is that what's dangerous to them is when you take away their consent, they have no authority to do anything but wipe their noses.
So that's one of the reasons why what you want to do is remember this from last week. I'm going to show this. One of the things you can do to hold these judges responsible is, remember I handed Andy a little chart from last week where if you're being denied, first of all, you know, it's not a judicial act or a judicial function to deny someone equal protection of the law. I mean, how outrageous can it be when someone's threatening to slit your throat and the police are making up excuses to do nothing? Yeah. You know, I mean, that's really outrageous. But what you got here for public corruption is 18 U.S.C. Section 1346, which is failure to provide honest service. So you've got judges who are refusing to provide honest service. And I've been talking about some of the things you can do to protect yourself, which is also to invoke common law, which is what Jason talks about and what NLA talks about. They want to box you into the system where you're dealing with statutes and codes, but you can invoke common law. So what we're gonna watch in real time, as I switch back to us, we're going to watch in real time, right, a federal judge, Judge Ross in the Eastern District of New York, make up stories about how it's okay. You know, the problem is, and this is the really big picture, the problem is you got a bunch of rich donors. They donate money to Yeshiva University. They also donate money to the Democratic Party, and then the Democratic Party elects these people. So you've got these, the Democratic Party has the prosecutors in office. That would be Robert Morgenthau, Mr. Vance. In Jersey, it would be Ed DeFazio as the prosecutor. So you've got all these Democratic Party officials who are dependent on the money from the Democratic Party to run their campaigns. And if you happen to be victimized by the people who are also donating to Yeshiva University, you get subjected to this kind of persecution. So, you know, we're going to watch this in real time. So what we can do is, you know, there's no way, the only thing that's going to happen is the federal authorities who are letting Jersey City Medical Center get away with the crime of false imprisonment, they've been putting the general public at risk. Right? Vladimir Jelnov has been out there on the loose. Nino Falcone, Judge Rodriguez, Judge Babcock has been out there on the loose because our civil authorities, our law enforcement doesn't protect our lives. That's like really, that's very serious. Not just a problem of Lydia Radin. Right?
Well, and the whole thing is that we are in the courts. There's something called in 1666 in Parliament, people were dying and London was burning. They made everyone dead. So in order to show that you were there, you had to show you were alive. By doing that, it was part of something called a trust. And that trust is what there's three people involved in the trust. The beneficiary is you. the administrator, and then the trustee. The administrator is the I think the prosecutor, and the trustee is the judge. And they tried to reverse it on you, and you're paying this out of your money from your trust, which is worth millions of dollars. And
well, what you're going into, and you're going to lose the audience a little because they're not listening to Thornton's lectures. But if you go to the National Liberty Alliance website and you sign up, you can you can get like 6 free email accounts from Yahoo or from Gmail, so you can make up a fictitious email account just so you can use the National Liberty Alliance website. And on the website, you'll go there for essays and
videos.
Yeah, and you can go and start looking at the videotapes and educating yourself into the common law. And from there, you'll learn, how we had a bankruptcy in the 1930s and how we were restructured into these corporations and how all of us have been hoodwinked. But that's not really where we want to go. What we want to do is give people some practical advice. So if you're out there and a cop comes to arrest you, don't be stupid like I was, okay? All you have to do is say, oh, you're coming to arrest me. Let me see the arrest warrant.
That's right.
I demand to see it.
That's
Even
right.
if you were stupid and you get dragged into trial, at trial said, show me the arrest warrant, show me where it was signed by the judge, and show me the signed oaths. That will protect your life. If they subject you to the crime of false imprisonment, and this is why you got to stop them, you say, oh, really? I don't have to prove anything. You show me where you claim you had the right to hold me. So, in Jersey City, they're telling every lie, dragging their feet to protect who? Vladimir Jelnov, the crooked, dishonest doctor at Jersey City Medical Center, because all this goes back to the Marlene Abramova camp, the Russian Orthodox Jewish woman who I tried to help and who paid me back by stabbing me in the back. How much you want to bet? Because all Marlene Abramova ever did was, mouth. She's just a puppet. So how much you want to bet Marlene Abramova told them some lie about me being a terrorist? Because remember, I already have a security liaison officer from the Pentagon on a tape-recorded conversation saying, when you came to Washington, Lydia, you never made terroristic threats. So where did Jersey City Medical Center get the idea that I was threatening to blow up schools in Washington? Is that the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard in your life? I mean, that's ridiculous. So how much you want to bet Marlene Abramova and her camp told a lie to comport with whatever lie that Yeshiva University wanted to tell and all the lies that Martin Bach said? I mean, that's outrageous that I would be, how stupid is this? I have to go down and talk to the U.S. Capitol Police, say, have you ever heard of anything so ridiculous in your life? If she can't get a job at the Pentagon, she's going to blow up schools in Washington? I mean, that is ludicrous. Anybody bother talking to me? So basically what this comes down to is Jimmy David, a crooked doctor at the this is like life-saving information we're giving out here. If you're a pre-med out there, if you're at Columbia University, if you're at New York University, if you're at CUNY, if you're pre-med anywhere in New York State, anywhere in the country, okay, the Albert Einstein College of Medicine will stalk you like an animal. They'll get someone like Jimmy David to claim you were his patient. They will call you a terrorist until they almost murder you. And then when they commit the crime of false imprisonment, what does law enforcement do? Law enforcement in Jersey is being lied to by the U.S. Attorney's Office. The only thing the investigator has to ask is, can you please show me the court order that said you had the right to take away Lydia Radin's liberty for 4 days? Show me. The Jersey City Medical Center has an obligation to show me the court order. Me, Lydia Radin, I requested my records. Where's the court order? Because if you ask for the court order, you're going to have a judge take the rap for this.
You're a victim of fraud and gross miscarriage of justice. And I also want to I really want to congratulate you as an excellent technical director, and also your presentation to the audience is just awesome.
I want you to tell me that Josh is a member of a group, and you were telling me about this. There's also someone who sits on the board of M&N. Tell the audience about that group.
Well, Nan Rubin sits on the board of Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and she's one of the leaders and founders of Jews for Social and Economic Justice. That's located in the synagogue of B'nai Jeshurun on 88th Street off Broadway. And I'm a member of Jews for Economic and Social Justice. And of course, we're very upset by what is now going on in the Middle East, because you are not defending a country when you kill non-combatants, children, and destroy hospitals and nurseries and everything. That's not defending a country. That's doing what Hitler did, destroy innocent people.
You know, I'm glad you brought this up, because in previous shows, about 2 or 3 or 4 shows back, we were talking about if we as Americans on American soil criticize Israel, we get subjected to persecution. Yeah. Well, last week, and you were very afraid of that. Yeah. Well, last week, Amy Goodman of Democracy Now!, after the show was over, because Amy Goodman and Democracy Now! Broadcasts right after me, Amy Goodman did a show. I called you. It knocked my socks off. She was presenting criticism of Israel. I don't think that anybody's going to persecute Amy Goodman. And if you want to see that, I'm going to show it on my Skype computer right now. Okay, this is Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. And if you scroll down to her show from last Friday, right here, let me increase the zoom a little bit. Okay. I understand that Dr. Stephen Cohen from NYU, New York University, is kind of a regular. He's been on her show before. And but throughout this show, she's presenting criticism of Israel, and one of the things she says is, or one of the guests on her show says, is the hardest thing for him when he was reporting, I think that was a documentary he was talking about, was that they had to combat the Israeli propaganda machine. That was the most difficult thing that they had to do. So you've got Amy Goodman commenting on the Palestinian point of view, how they're trying to combat the Israeli propaganda machine. And I don't see Amy Goodman being persecuted. I don't think anybody's going to persecute Amy Goodman. Do you, Josh?
Well, she does receive tremendous criticism. I know, I hear it myself, and from supposedly a lot of even good people criticize her very much for her stand as an honest journalism, because she is not anti-Israel. She's trying to be an honest, straightforward journalist, like Catherine Wang, giving all sides of the story. I mean, if you're a good journalist, you should not be one-sided.
That's true, and I don't think we as Americans on American soil should be subjected to persecution if we're criticizing Israel. Certainly, Israel has no problem criticizing America. I don't think we should live in fear. Do you?
No.
No, I don't think so. So, Jason, you still with us?
Yes, I am.
What are your thoughts so far?
Well, it's a syndrome of you can't criticize the Jews of Israel because they've gone through so much, and it's like this guilt complex. There is really the irony here is that we don't know what the truth is, the Hamas versus the Israeli army. I mean, if they're firing, my point, if they are firing these rockets from places that are safe zones, they're violating their own and violating their own people. And if they're not, then Israel is just taking advantage of wiping out the Palestinians bit by bit. I'm not the hardest thing in life is to go for peace. But if your enemies want you dead, well, I'm sorry, I'm going to strike first, and then ask questions later. That's my point. As a former Marine, I don't take anything personal. I just want to be personally alive.
Yeah, but before the state of Israel, and I don't want to wander into this too much. You had lots of different people living in the Middle East, different groups, just doing the best they could. So, I mean, if you want to argue that based on collective Western guilt, after Hitler, the Zionists claim you needed a homeland. Yeah. Well, here's the problem, and this is part of the propaganda machine. Lenin established the autonomous Jewish state in the 1920s. And it's been in continuous existence. It's on the Chinese border. In fact, they advertise today in the New York Times there actually was a place to go. I mean, Lenin gave the Jews in the Soviet Union. He was trying to hold the Soviet Union together, and the Zionist movement that started in about the 1840s was using any excuse they could, and they're like, we need a homeland, so Lenin gave them the autonomous Jewish Republic. It's on the Chinese border. Right. It's been in continuous existence. So this myth that, we were trapped in Nazi Germany and there was no place to go and it's everybody's fault because they wouldn't take us, may not be as true as we think, but we never hear that in America. Why don't we hear that in America? Right. Why is our media, why can't we hear the truth in America?
Yeah, Russia offered them Azerbaijan to settle in.
Yeah.
Let me put up a point. As America tries to be the golden shield of freedom, we ourselves turned a deaf eye and ear to the Nazi scientists that were coming to us. Everything in our military is actually former Nazi technology. Van Braun was the head scientist for their V1 and V2 weapons. Everything that we have is Nazified American technology. So I mean, if we didn't deal with guilt, we're all guilty of complicity at one point or another.
That may be true, but when I was quoting the Israeli lobby and U.S. foreign policy, what we get a lot of is we don't hear the truth, and you can't. Man's inhumanity to man, I hate to say this because it's horrible, just doesn't know from 6 million Jews who were killed. What about the 5 million Catholics? Everybody seems to forget that. What about when I talked to Alan Raskoff?
What about the Armenians?
Well, what about the homosexuals who were slaughtered?
That's right.
What about the gypsies who were slaughtered? What about the rape of Nanking? What you get is basically a whole lot of people who are just killing anybody because they were in a war of world conquest. So to spin all this like it was some special terrible thing that just happened to the Jews in World War II is really unfair to everybody else who's been persecuted. Oh, really? You mean Christians haven't been persecuted for decades, centuries?
But the one thing I got to say, that Germany, after the war, acknowledged that their wrongdoing, and they were mind controlled in the sense that you couldn't even if you wanted to go against the regime, you became a victim of your own conscience. But the thing is that the irony of the Nazis, Hitler mechanized death camps, but Stalin killed 20 million of his own people from 1920 to when he died in 1953. So I mean, if you look at monsters, all these dictators are really super bad. But again, we're just looking at Hitler. The Armenians, 1.5. The Turks to this day still won't recognize that they did something terrible. Oh, that's a lie.
May I just interject one thing? Amy Goodman is a brilliant woman like Lydia Radin. Her grandfather was was a rabbi, a respected rabbi,
Oh, I didn't know.
and she's a graduate of Red Cliff Harvard, Amy Goodman.
Really?
So when Amy Goodman brings you a story, it is highly professional
She,
and detailed.
yeah.
And she does, like Lydia, she does her homework. I wanted to say that.
So, thank you so much.
I concur.
So the issue is, you know, the problem with that I have is that why are we lying so much? Why can't we tell the truth? What is the problem here? Why do we have to make up all these stories? You know, when I started researching the case for Yeshiva University, which is a massive fraud, you know, what Yeshiva University is, and when I was talking to a major religious group last week, you know, and I talked to Senator Schumer about this, I say, you know, I try to temper what I say with a little humor. So and I also pretend to be a little stupid when I talk to Senator Schumer. So, so I say, you know, I'm not against what Yeshiva University is doing. I just want to know if my Catholic schools can get in on the same good deal. So, you know, how come there's all this massive fraud? Why are we all blinding ourselves to the truth? What are we so afraid of? If Yeshiva University can get lots of public money to promote private religious education, why can't the rest of us? And they brought up something that I didn't know. Here's what they brought up. Apparently, the Orthodox Jews tried to impose their lifestyle on other groups as well. They wanted to pass laws so the public bus system would separate the passengers according to sex, because in Orthodox Judaism you always separate the sexes. So when I was talking to one of the leaders of a major religious group, he's like, listen, if you want to have your own private bus system, that's fine. But if we're all paying taxes for a public bus system and now you want to impose your religious rules, they're doing the same thing as Yeshiva University is doing. They want the public money and they want to impose religious rules. They would never tolerate that anywhere else. So how come if you open your mouth and say something about how that's not fair, you get persecuted like Lydia Radin? You know, I'm not against what they're doing. I just want to get in on the same good deal. Jason, we're going out in less than a minute, and I guess we'll have to get to some of the other things that I was doing. Do you want to have the last word?
Yes. Anyone wanting to get involved in the National Liberty Alliance, please go to nationallibertyalliance.org. We are looking for administrators throughout the country. We need 4 people in each county. If you're looking for a good job, you want to bring back for a better republic, please go there and join. Without liberty, we are in a dictatorship.
So next week I'll put up the National Liberty Alliance website, and I will give a report on National Liberty Alliance putting this treatise on false imprisonment and false arrest up there, so that, you know, we're engaging in lifelong learning so that we can help change the world. So I'll show the website next week, and hopefully in a week or two we'll see the treatise up there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lydia, for another great show. Josh, thank you so much. And God bless everyone who's attending.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So I think if we're educating the world, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good.
You gave a lot of great information.
This is very good.
Yes, yes.
So thank you
Yes,
so
wow.
much.